Welcome to Under the Lens. Come and enjoy an extraordinary, raw, and unfiltered podcast that delivers debate, discussions, and interviews about film, pop culture, and everything in between. Here is your host, film critic and journalist, Byron Lafayette.
Today, I have two very special guests with me today, and we're going to be discussing an even more special topic, which is the Filmation cartoon series that ran many years ago that was on various superheroes from DC and others. And this topic is fairly new to me. I've been a little bit familiar with these series. You know, I've seen bits and pieces of them over the course of my life, but I was never that knowledgeable about it. So I'm very excited to be here with these two guys to learn more about the subject and introduce Filmation to more people. So I'll let you guys introduce yourselves, and then we'll get started.
Okay. My name is William Robinson. I am an associate editor at Viral Hair. I've been a fan of animation for years. And as I gotten older, and as part of my job getting back into animation for articles, I've come to love even more Filmation and didn't realize how much it had done. And a lot of times the subject come up at a job I used to work out with my friend, who is the other guest here, and this is one of the subjects we used to talk a lot about.
And I'm Jamoso Wilson. I am an actual educator, high school physics, chemistry, and environmental science teacher, lifelong Filmation enthusiast. It's something I grew up with. It's something that even right now at 45 is near and dear to my heart. I use it in my spare time. Sometimes if there's nothing on my TV, I know I can go back to these old episodes and just dive in. And it may be something I've seen 5 to 6 times, but I always tend to find something new in it. So I just appreciate the culture and some of the things that it's brought to my life, and I love to share it with others.
That's awesome. You know, and I think that, you know, with good TV, that's something that you always notice. It's something that you can revisit time and time again. You know, it doesn't matter how old it is. It doesn't matter how many times you've seen it. You're always going to be spotting something new.
Yeah. And it's like, I remember they used to have the studio used to have their own original series. Like you're talking about all the series they had, Byron. And they had this block of shows called the Super 7. And it was all Filmation Studio stuff, live action cartoons. But I remember one show that kind of always piqued my interest because it was like a comedy superhero show in a way, but it wasn't a parody. It wasn't making fun of stuff, but it was Superstretch and Microwoman. And it was this successful black couple who happened to be superheroes. And sometimes they have more lighthearted adventures, sometimes it'd be more serious. But that show was like, wow, as a kid, anybody could be a superhero. Anybody could have a good marriage. Anybody could, you know, it was, as a kid, you don't always think about these things about race or anything else. You're just thinking, hey, it's superheroes. How cool is this? They've got a neat dog that helps them out, you know, and so that for me, that cartoon was something that I think first drew me in, along with some of their when they re-syndicated some of their DC cartoons, to enjoying that studio so much and the stuff they put out.
Yeah, adding on to that too, like you were saying, like some of the lessons is like sometimes as I'm sitting back here and I'm watching the old Fat Albert cartoons and stuff, and just you see the lessons in it. You know, you have the comedy, but you have the human element and the right and wrong. And even if someone was wrong, they may get a slight a slight bit of chastisement, and then they're circling back, showing the lesson in it and the value of why this is that. And that's a lot of things that are lacking today.
Yeah, they are. And speaking of Fat Albert, and I'll get this out of the way. But I mean, you go back and I hear the love in your voice for the shows. I like to rewatch them too because it was so unique the way they did the animation and the music was always so original. But with the lessons it taught and the way it approached sensitive, more sensitive subject matter as it went along, you think this show is kind of outlasted, has its own legacy outside of Bill Cosby, you know, because even though in my opinion, even though he may have changed course from the lessons the show taught, the show still stands up in what it's trying to teach kids today, and can still teach kids today. Because for me, watching the show growing up in a more rural area, Southeast Texas, and thinking, is only these people, for me anyway, where I grew up at, is like, is just people in my friends in these trailer parks have these problems? Does my family just have these problems? Then you see the way it's expressed, and I know it took place in the ghetto part of Chicago, I think, or wherever. But then you realize everybody has these problems.
Yeah.
And as
That's
a kid
true.
growing up, that was like really, it expanded my brain, you know?
But if you look at all of the cartoons across the plane during Filmation too, you look at the camaraderie that everybody had. Like, you look at how they cared for one another. They held each other accountable. They stuck together. It was always a sense of unity. Even if they got into it a bit or disagreed, at the end of the day, they showed the camaraderie.
Yeah. Like Space Sentinels. You had a black woman, a white surfer dude, and an Asian guy got together. The lady was pretty much the field leader, but it wasn't like question her. It was like, okay, let's get it done. We got to protect these people. We got to save this person. We got to take care of the planet. Let's get it done. And yeah, it was like you said, the camaraderie, and you know, they're all flying, all wearing capes and whatever, and they're different people, but you knew who they were the way the characters are written. But it was like you said, at the end of the day, I think one of the best, and I just rewatched this because getting ready for this, there's an episode where, and they don't turn it into a damsel in distress thing either, which I thought was really cool. But Astria, the leader, gets snatched up by these bad guys. And Hercules and Mercury go, and no questions, just go help her. What can we do?
That's right.
Let's find out. And they actually have to do the research on their own without their leader to figure out where to find her. And it was just so oh, we got to run in, guns blazing. We got to do this. It was okay. We got to save our captain, basically. And it was cool. And again, it was that loyalty of different people, different backgrounds and whatnot, there in front of everybody. You know,
it was on full display.
Yeah, but I always find interesting, and especially listening to you guys about this, I feel like it kind of like pushes it home even more. Is that we hear with different stories with nowadays, of like people saying like, oh, we need to add more diversity, we need to have more quote unquote progressive ideas or whatever. But I feel like saying that a lot of these ideas were already being done in shows like this before, of the camaraderie of having like a woman being a leader or whatever. And sometimes I feel like saying that people keep saying like, oh, we got to move forward this diverse stuff, but then they don't realize that when they get there, I always like to say the nerds were already there. It's like it's like they were already there long ago.
Yeah, and it's like if you look at some of the original Star Trek episodes, where especially the ones featuring Uhura, Nichelle Nichols, and Sulu, George Takei, there were episodes where stuff just happened in their jobs. Somebody they had to change positions or whatever, and there wasn't always a specially made shots. Like it seems like in today, it's pushed that we got to do a special long shot. We got to create this special music for this moment. But like with Space Sentinels or Superstretch and Microwoman or some of this other stuff, job just got done. and it was done by diverse people or whatever, but it was just, and to me, it showed everybody could get along in a workplace, do the job, and take care of business, and it's everybody working together, working as a unit or whatever. And going back to Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids, those guys fought all the time.
And they circle right back around.
Exactly.
They fought within each other, but nobody could fight with them. No matter what. They took care of their own. They took care of home. And like, it's funny you touched on Star Trek, because I was looking at old clips of the Filmation Star Trek, and I was just enamored on how close and in sync they were with the original show. I didn't realize they used some of the original voices, if not almost all of the old cast
were
actually doing voices for it. So that's one that I don't have, that I will probably be gathering within the next couple of days, because that will be something I take to work with me and just kind of deep dive.
Well, yeah, especially since you teach science. I mean, that really wakes people up.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, because that was the Star Trek the Animated Series, correct?
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, I haven't seen the entire thing, but like with all the new Star Trek shows and everything, I've always been a Trek fan, and I saw these popping up on Paramount Plus, and so I kind of checked out a few, and I was like, hey, these are really good.
Yeah,
I was like, I was like you said, it really meshes with the original series, because like you said, a lot of the voices, but just the storytelling and everything. Like I never felt like I was watching, something that was subpar or anything like that. It felt like Star Trek,
That is true. And my grandmother was not a cartoon person, but she would watch that Star Trek cartoon, because her and I used to watch the Star Trek show. She didn't mind watching that. So that was cool.
Yeah. That was cool. And from what I understand, when Filmation got the license, Gene Roddenberry was very, very much a part of it. He's very much, okay, this is what I want to see. This is the structure I want to see. I know some of the stuff has to get toned down in terms of the combat and stuff you saw in the original series for kids, but don't dumb it down.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what Filmation did throughout its production. Even if it was a silly cartoon like the Walter Kitty, it was the cat that daydreamed he was a superhero, whatever, all the time, or some of their shows that made fun of other TV shows. But even the humor, I mean, it wasn't Mel Brooks kind of humor, but they never dumbed it down for the kids. They made you feel like you weren't being talked down to, and I think that. And Jamoso, I talked before where we used to work at, this kind of thing. It's like, even back in the early 2000s, it felt like cartoons were talking down to kids.
It's very true. Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I look at, so like, as we look at some of this stuff and you look at the cartoons, when you dive into the history of the company as well, some of the things that I've read and seen and heard on other podcasts or other avenues of information that were really legit, this could real life be like a really, really good story to put on film and stuff. I mean, they had a very, very detailed, deep legacy, and some of the things that I knew that they were associated with and the things that I didn't know, like, this is a story that really needs to be out there, because they touched lives of so many, and some people may not even realize that, the exposure to this, because I can go in the barbershop today and mention Filmation. Probably 2 or 3 out of 10 will know, but then if you really dive in and say, hey, well, this is what they're responsible for, then everybody's like, oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. No, that's very accurate, because because like when me and William were first talking about doing this episode, I hadn't heard of the name Filmation, but then like when he started mentioning the shows, I was like, oh, okay, no, I know that. And I was like, I was like, okay, I remember seeing bits and pieces of that, and it totally came to mind. And it was interesting too, being a California-based company too, which I didn't realize until I started like researching it a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was really impressed on how, like, when they first got their big shot and they were saying the execs wanted to come in and meet their crew, and they really didn't have a crew. They were the crew. So they
Yeah.
so they improvised and went and made a crew. Like, I love that. But that's a dollar in a dream. And that should be a testament to people, because some people have brilliant ideas, but they don't always have the manpower or the backing or even the direction. But that right there shows you what's possible.
Yeah. Like I think it was the main guy, Lou Scheimer.
Mhm.
If they didn't have a voice actor available for a certain role, he would take an alias, would not take any pay from the production, and do fill-in voices himself.
That's
That's
right.
awesome.
That's right.
And when you read some of the Super 7, they had another cartoon called Manta and Moray. And it was this guy, he was an alien person, not from Atlantis, but someplace else, had a human wife, which she could hold her breath or something. I can't remember all the circumstances. And they were very much ahead of everybody as far as talking about environmental stuff, ecological issues and whatnot. And I think that was the only cartoon I remember that actually was probably got a little bit loud with some of the lessons it was teaching. But at the same time, I think because back then, not everybody had the research and understanding as they do now about some of the stuff we deal with. But again, like Jamoso talked about the legacy of this research myself, come to find out the reason there are only so many episodes of Manta and Moray and Superstretch and Microwoman was because, and I'm not going to start naming names or sources here because I don't get anybody in trouble, but DC was releasing a Plastic Man adventure show. He had a wife and a baby and all this. At the same time, Superstretch and Microwoman were out. And Aquaman was part of Super Friends. Also, they're re-releasing the Aquaman series that they did in syndication. So ironically, even though Filmation did the Aquaman series, DC sued Filmation on and the judges back then had no idea about comic book stuff, cartoon stuff at the time. So they sued on the basis that they were copying superpowers and therefore ordered cease and desist on any new episodes.
Wow.
Oh man.
And you know, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
And that's why there's only so many episodes available of stuff from the Super 7. They could rebroadcast them, but they couldn't make new episodes.
Could make new ones. That's funny. And you know, another thing I liked about Filmation, there were very, very distinct characters on some of these shows. Like, you may have your main characters, but some of your not so popular or main source characters, they were memorable, like Moon Man and Broomhilda and all, man. Yeah, man. Like, you remember this stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like what was it, Jamoso? Hero High?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you knew who the questionable characters were in that.
Yeah.
You knew who the supposedly lead characters, but actually they were secretly making fun of, like Captain California, I think the guy's name was. His costume, he had bare feet and wore a red cape and flew around on a surfboard. You know.
Can we say stereotype?
Yeah.
Right. And it's funny because the same cartoon, you had a character, I can't remember her name, but it was, again, them being diverse. You know, you had a young black female who happened to be a magic person. And, you had characters back then in the 80s, they were coming their own, like Shazam and Zatanna. And I think on Spider-Man, one of those, they actually introduced Doctor Strange to a bunch of people. So to have this young lady on there is like, okay, we're aware of these characters, but we're going to go this direction and show y'all somebody completely different. And even I can't remember her name to this day. I remember she wore a whiteout tuxedo with a cape. And usually when she's the one that actually dealt with the worst elements of the school at times, you know.
And do you remember do you remember the relationship of Tarzan and the animals on the cartoon? Like
Oh man.
they were lifelike. They were
Yeah,
basically humans.
yeah. I gotta admit, last con I went to, there was a booth. They had original Filmation animation cells.
Uh-huh.
I picked me up a Tarzan composite piece
Gotcha.
because one of the things they used was they'd have like, and you didn't realize this till later, but to save money, they'd create like a character shot with limited backgrounds, and
Yep.
they'd only animate maybe the character's face and then have a moving background. That's
Mm-hmm.
why not everything, like, because Disney animated everything. But
Yeah.
Filmation, because it had such a small crew
Uh-huh.
and didn't always have the budget.
Yep, it may be the same shot on 7 cartoons, but just they save money like that. Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah, and this is one of those. It's the outline of Tarzan. He's standing up against something. He has no face. So this is one of those
Mm-hmm.
where they put the face over and like the river in the background.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they had cells there, and exactly what you're saying, Joe. It was so lifelike. It was so amazing, and because I am such a huge Filmation fan, I'm not gonna lie. It's not take a little bit of willpower, not to take my comic book budget and spend it all at that booth.
No, I totally agree.
uh, because they actually did some of their stuff based on rotoscoping, which is they take film movies and they would actually paint over it. Like I found out that they used some of the footage from the original Tarzan serials that Johnny Weissmuller was in and painted Tarzan over that.
Gotcha.
And then when they did He-Man, they redid some of those shots. So a lot of
Mm-hmm.
somersaults you might see He-Man do when he's leaping over someone, and what Tarzan did in his cartoon, but it was
It's
done from the serial back in the 40s or 50s, whenever that came out.
Oh, that's fascinating.
yes. And then one of my favorites that I always look at, Bravestar. Come on, man. That Bravestar was ahead of the time too.
Now, I got a theory on this, Joe. Now, just hear me out here.
Okay.
BlackStar, which is based on John Carter, was originally supposed to be a black man, but CBS freaked out. So they made him a very tan, very distinct looking man, right? Bravestar comes out years later, and it looks like they use the same character model. And they said, okay, well, he's actually the descendant of Indigenous Americans. So where they like taking BlackStar back and make him, just my theory, of course, the first Indigenous American astronaut, and maybe giving a big raspberry to CBS when they did it, because it feels like it. It's like, okay, we're gonna have some diversity here, dang it.
Yeah. We're going to touch everybody, and we're going to give everybody representation. And that's genius.
Right. And no fanfare, no whatever. It's just, hey, we need a cool Western hero, and we want to give him superpowers. We don't want to make him like anybody else. Let's make him this guy. And not only is this guy, he's the lead character, and he's the sheriff. I mean,
and then listen. I think I saved it in my notepad. Theme lyrics: in a distant planet and far away place. The planet New Texas floats deep in space sky with 3 suns, land of precious ore. The carrion mines brought out outlaws by the score. Then one day, a lawman came with the powers of a hawk, wolf, puma, and bear. Protect the peace, mystic man from afar, champion of justice, Marshall
Bravestar. Yep.
Genius.
Yeah, they're letting you know right there that this guy's superpowered. He's all about the business, but and also there's a couple episodes where a bigger threat loomed than anything else, and also they saw this once in a while He-Man, and Bravestar showed mercy towards his enemy, and and like I said, that was another thing unique for. I mean, of course, because their DC stuff was based off DC Comics, so they didn't have always the flexibility they did in storyline. They did the original stuff, and a lot of the original stuff, there were times where the hero try to find somebody to show mercy to their enemy. Now, whether the enemy took it or not was on them, but I thought that was something very unique. It was a unique lesson, at that time.
Yes. Yes. It wasn't always just straight to the point, or we're just gonna disintegrate he or she, or just it was definitely they gave you a vantage point that you weren't seeing on TV.
Yeah. And I think one thing they had above Hanna-Barbera is, if you know, some of the character depictions in Hanna-Barbera cartoons kind of followed the Yellow Menace, that these guys were our enemies. They maybe had slightly Asian-looking bad guys to tie into the whole, panic 80s and 70s where all the scary stuff happened.
Yes.
And going back to Space Sentinels and then Space Academy, two of the main characters of both those were both Asian.
Yes.
So they went against the grain in those ways and had characters that were, and again, it wasn't, we're going to smack you in the head with this. It was, hey, this is a team. This is what they do. Let's get the job done. And I think that's a lesson, again, that's missing in a lot of cartoons, because I think if you show kids, honestly, just show them people can get together and take care of business and be friends, that then it just happens naturally, because you have to teach kids to not get along, for them not to get along.
And it as we talked about the camaraderie too, as we talk about the was it Scheimer or the creator Lou? How do I pronounce his name? Scheimer.
Lou Scheimer.
Even his employees said, no matter what, when everybody was outsourcing to overseas for animation,
Right.
he did everything in his power to keep his work right there in California and with them. Used the same people. Like you say, he took out of his own house to make sure his people had jobs and to keep it there. And that's a testament to just what they were doing. Like,
yeah. And they were probably the first animation studio to actually cast actors in the voice roles of the characters they portrayed. So if they had a black man on the screen or a black woman, it was that person of that ethnicity portraying that character.
yes. And that's why I'm saying I keep looking. That somebody has to make a story about this, because it is definitely a story. Like that whole, I remember when you could kind of tell the animation had changed from what we saw at Filmation to what you start seeing getting a little more edgy, a little more maybe advanced, but they stayed true to their root, and that's why they still have a presence right now. They didn't try to go the Disney Pixar way. They stayed what was true to them and what made them real. And I love it.
Right, because if you were watching one of their more cartoony shows like Archie or some of those other things like Broomhilda, like you said, and all those, then you knew it was a cartoony show.
Mm-hmm.
The Groovy Ghoulies, that kind of stuff, you knew it was going to be silly the whole way through.
Yes.
But if it was a more realistic show, except, when they brought in Batmite to Batman, but the more realistic stuff stayed realistic. And if they did have a cartoony character or a joke character on there, he was in proportion to the other characters on the show.
It was complimentary.
Exactly.
They even had Gilligan. Come on, man. Like, they were on time with it.
Yeah, that was a funny one. That was
yes.
Man, I was just looking up Bravestar on here, and this looks like a great show. I think I'm gonna I was looking on Amazon and found the complete series, and I was like, oh, I think I might pick this up. And this is like kind of my own personal theory here, but I wonder if this show was a bit of an inspiration for. There was an animated show that I want to say, I believe it ran in the early 2000s, I want to say, and it was called Roswell Conspiracies, Aliens, Myths, and Legends.
Yes, I watched it on Tubi.
Yeah, I love that. I love that show, and like just looking at at Bravestar, that I wonder if they took some inspiration from that, because just like some of the animation style, I don't know, the story seems seems like they might have seen that and been like, oh, we like that.
Possibly, and that one again is more adult skewed, or it's more talking to you on your intelligence level, not talking down to you. It wouldn't surprise me because they have still long-lasting presence. And what has surprised me is as you've got new filmmakers coming up and they look at more diversity in film, that for whatever reason, a lot of studios are saying, well, okay, make a, pardon me, this version of this character.
And what's that? What's the show? What's the show that you just named? I need to write that down so I can deep dive. You said
it's a Roswell Conspiracies.
Okay.
Aliens, Myths, and Legends, and definitely recommend it. It's a fantastic show. I think it ran 40 episodes. I want to say somewhere thereabouts.
I think so. And if you have Tubi, Joe, on any of your streaming systems, it's there for free.
I do. Okay,
it's free.
Well, it will be downloaded today.
Yeah, it's a neat show, and it's so funny that we're talking about this because if you look back at stuff they did, and like I was trying to say earlier, it's like amazing how much of these big studios will go, okay, well we'll make this version of Superman your own, and yet if they just looked at, I can't remember who owns the rights to these old shows like Superstretch and Microwoman of those. But why aren't these characters being pursued? Why aren't these type of programs being looked at and brought back to the public? Because these young innovators that want to do more diverse stuff, like Michael B. Jordan and those guys, it's like, hey, there's a whole depth of stuff this company did. You guys should look at that you could definitely call your own.
But you know who's tapping into it, and it's genius. It's not the people in film right now. It's a lot of fashion companies that tap into this stuff. I remember years back. I remember when FUBU had the whole Fat Albert thing. Like, it went bananas. Like, that was like, those people like made tons of money with that because it tapped into our childhood. I think I was probably, that was early 2000s. So I was late 20s going into my 30s. And even now, like, I have an addiction to vintage tees. When I see T-shirts with this stuff, I may buy the same shirt 3 times because I'm gonna wear it. But that's who's tapping into this. But you're exactly right.
Well, going back to that, they recently, one of these toy companies released a series of Flash Gordon action figures, and the designs are right from the Filmation series they did. I mean, the red shirt, blue pants with stripes, Flash Gordon, the green outfitted Ming the Merciless. I mean, they're literally 3D representations of the cartoon characters we were watching. I mean,
And sometimes to get a kick out of it, like I know you will notice sometime I'll go through this thing like on Facebook or Twitter or something where I'll just post an old character as my profile, and it always sparks a conversation. I remember one day posting the Baron from Flash Gordon. And I had so many people like, oh man, I remember this dude. And people's telling you stories about just from that image. They're conversation pieces. You can post some of this stuff, or you can like put up a video clip, and this is sometimes a place of peace for people.
Yeah. I have I've had an image one time, something I was doing, the Filmation version of Aquaman, and people don't realize that in that cartoon, unlike Super Friends, Aquaman was not like a fifth wheel character. This guy swam around underseas. He was punching torpedoes away from himself. He could lift things underwater. I mean, to me, some of the stuff in the Jason Momoa Aquaman owes more to that cartoon and the way he was portrayed as a tough guy than he was ever in Super Friends.
Yeah, I really remember Aquaman like stopping a whole submarine and kind of just throwing it over. Yeah, like definitely.
Yeah, Byron, with your love of the Snyderverse stuff, if you've got HBO Max, go check out the Aquaman series is on HBO Max, and they've got it's 2 episodes of Aquaman, and in the middle you've got characters that don't use in cartoons too much today, like Hawkman, the Atom.
Yes. Oh, interesting.
And the Flash, and it's their version of it. So they have their power sets a little bit different. There's a Teen Titans cartoon that didn't include Robin. It was now correct me if I get this wrong, Jamoso. It was Speedy, Kid Flash, Aqualad, and Wonder Girl, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so, and they had original episodes, and there's not that many of the middle episodes, but they rotated them in such a way. Oh, and their version of Justice League before Super Friends came out was there.
Hawkman was my man. Hawkman was one of my favorites.
Oh man, that glove, man.
Yeah. Hawkman was awesome.
In this version, Hawkman didn't carry a mace or any of these primitive weapons. He wore this gauntlet that had claws on it that cut through anything. And instead of a hawk emblem on his chest, it was a dial. So he could change different beams coming out of it. And his sidekick was a very tough hawk named Screech, something like that. And they just tear it up, man. They get into it. Yeah. And he had bulletproof wings. I mean, this was...
And even going back, think about this. At our age, think about some of the companies that monetized off of this. Okay, you did have your DC and your Marvel fans and all that knew. Think about a company like Underoos who put a simple T-shirt and a little pair of underwear in an envelope, and I mean they made tons of money because my mom always bought me that stuff. Like that was like the go-to. You get your little Underoos, pack your little T-shirt.
Yeah, and the like, newer Filmation. Yeah. Yeah. I think I had Batman, Captain America, and and what's funny is later on, as the newer cartoons of the '80s got deals with them. Like I remember briefly they had the. And they were kind of funny looking, both the He-Man and BlackStar, because you had a skin tone color top T-shirt.
Yes.
And then He-Man had the the vest he wore, and the Bravestar had like the yellow thing with the BlackStar in the middle of the chest thing there. Yes. And Bravestar is just funny looking because it was like it had the badge on there, but it looked funny because it was like the collar with the little pieces he had on there. But yeah, I remember Underoos, and you're right. Those companies at that time made money, and like you pointed out, except for maybe and what was weird, the BlackStar action figures did not come out till after they did He-Man.
Yes,
because He-Man actually made BlackStar more popular.
Yep, I was reading that this morning, and I didn't realize that because I had the toys, but I did not realize that He-Man preceded that.
Yeah, and in fact, somebody from Filmation admitted that they redrew over footage of BlackStar to present He-Man to camera CBS or whatever company they did, but when they got the contract and they got the license for it from Mattel Toys. So yeah, but yeah, BlackStar, the figures came out after the cartoon, and years ago, in fact, that's I think that was one of the first animated series I bought for myself on DVD was the BlackStar series, and I bring it out every once in a while and watch it because I loved the old John Carter pulp novels, and this guy was based off of it, so it was like, okay, this is a neat version of it, and. What's funny is, again, talking about some people who've only been exposed to newer things, and unfortunately, sometimes believe they're right. And so it's like, okay, well, if there wasn't BlackStar, it wouldn't be He-Man. Oh, no, you're wrong about that. And it's like, I'm not going to spend time on this. Just look it up for yourself.
Yeah. I mean, it's the backbone of it. It's definitely the backbone.
And I years ago got to speaking of He-Man, got to interview Alan Oppenheimer, who did a lot of voice work for Filmation, and he was the voice of Skeletor.
One of my favorites.
Yeah, and the first couple of minutes of the interview, he was messing with me because he said, "Well, give me the whole interview like this," and he was responding to my questions as Skeletor.
Wow,
that's awesome.
and I'm recording this on my phone. So I can transcribe it later. I said, Mr. Oppenheimer, this is great, but I can't stop laughing. Can we start over and do regular voice? It's like, okay. And then this local show where I interviewed him for, we used to turn it into a family weekend at times. And so I got to introduce my wife and daughter to him. Very lovely man, very kind person. But it kind of goes to show by his personality, like you were saying earlier, Jamoso, the staff he had there, the kind of people that worked with that studio, is they were people that wanted better quality stuff. They were mostly pretty good people, and so it kind of showed in a way, because him being such a nice guy showed the character of the company.
Well, they were looking at quality over quantity.
Right.
That was one, and if you go back and look at it now, like you say, limited number of episodes on some things, but look at the quality of it.
Yeah.
Versus something with 5 or 6 seasons and tons of episodes, but at some point you're like, this is not it. This is not it.
Yeah. And and in fact, there's newer shows which they might have some actors I like in it. I'll try to give it a watch. And probably about maybe even the first season of a show, I'll get in the 4th or 5th episode, and it's like, well, this seems just like the first episode I watched. I mean, nothing's moving forward, nothing's changed. It's just kind of recycled. And they can talk all they want about these cartoons having recycled characters, but they tried, even if it was similar plot, like in the He-Man cartoons or Bravestar, they tried their best though to keep you interested, to keep your brain awake when they did these shows. And I think that goes back, like you said, the quality of the studio.
And I think, and again, and not to stray off topic, but like just a testament to what you're saying, I am probably one of the most diehard Speed Racer guys that you'll ever meet. I watch Speed Racer probably once a day. It's on every device I have. And they got so many episodes, but it was always a change. It was simple, but it was a change there. And that's what I think a lot of this animation today is missing. They're trying so much to get the aesthetics on your eyes, but they're missing the story and the beef on the inside. Like, 'cause these older shows were just awesome, like just to the point.
Yeah, and that's why the quality shows that have come out after it are very few and far between. But they owe a lot to what came before, like the Batman animated series and the DC series that followed it. They just saw on for long. Like the Superman series wasn't on that long. I think the Justice League cartoons, both versions only had 2 seasons. But they kept you interested, and they kept the quality level up. And but the problem is with quality these days, because outsourcing and because of everything else, the cost has skyrocketed, where they can't keep these shows up in that quality level. And which is funny, because all the changes in the economy, you think somebody would get smart and use the Filmation production system to do that kind of stuff now.
That's right.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Oh, go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good. Go ahead.
I was going to say, going on what you were saying, it is interesting that with costs and everything, I am surprised that we haven't kind of seen a return to like retro filmmaking when it comes to animation, because we're seeing a lot of that in the video game market. Like there's a whole renaissance of developers who are making games in the style of the 80s, of the 90s. I interviewed one guy on my podcast, and it's like, and his games are fantastic, and they're so simple, and a lot of times it's just him. He's like a one-man studio doing it. And so I am surprised that we haven't seen that with animation nowadays as much. I mean, I'm sure there's a little bit of it that exists, but yeah, I would personally love to see that.
That's true, because you see, like you say, video games are going back to it. The cinematography in movies is going back to it. So why not in animation? I mean, it's definitely there. You show me something like this and it's going to the movies, I will be there. Like, just, it's got to be someone. It's just, stepping out and being brave, just taking a chance.
Yeah. I could do that. I think it was a couple of years ago. I did Forgotten Superheroes a Saturday morning, and it was a focus on different African American based characters that the studios have done over the years. And I think that was one of the first times Byron and I even had a messenger conversation about Filmation, because out of all the the series I used, the two ones I really looked into were, again, Superstretch and Microwoman and Space Sentinels, because we were pivotal things. But people people should look into it and do something more. I think, because I don't think there's been a proper biography or even a nice coffee table edition. I think, those big books with a lot of illustrations to tell the story of the studio, because I think that people do because there are a couple of documentaries, but not the ones you want to see.
Yes.
Because I don't think there are people in Hollywood that admit that some of the reasons some of these cartoons got shut down is because other companies got jealous of what they were doing. And
I did not realize. I kind of remember it shutting down, but now as I was doing my own research, and I did not realize when Westinghouse got them, it was just like pull the plug.
Yeah.
And come on, man. There was no reason for that.
No, but Westinghouse, they didn't understand what they had in the studio, and they didn't realize that in the long run, even though everything was in house, it would save them money over time rather than sending stuff out. And the guys in charge, and what's bizarre is NBC, when Westinghouse was a part of them at that time, I think I could be wrong, but they'd already had a relationship with the studio. They had already showed some of their stuff on their station. So it's like, why? Why kill something that you can reinvigorate? It's got these great properties, and you're going to toss it. It didn't make sense.
Yeah, that was one of those kind of those backroom relationships, and hey, I'm gonna do this for you, and we're gonna do this, and because it is no explanation for it. You can't show me the rhyme or reason why that stuff didn't continue.
Yeah, and when we used to work together, I've always been fascinated by the entertainment industry, and now I get to write about it, doing with hair, but like some of the conversations you and I have had about the greed in the industry and stuff. I mean, Byron have had, and some of the work we've done with the viral hair. It's like, yeah. And I'm going to speak for myself. I can't speak for anybody else, but I've been to shows where I've talked to someone in the industry. I may have interviewed one of their people of their group. But it's a very superficial interview, which is cool because we try not to get into a lot of political stuff, just keep people, do the entertainment stuff. But
yes.
But some of these people, after the microphone is shut down or the phone camera, and they'll say, one of the reasons we're doing this in this way is because we don't want to get in that mess involved, because there's so much backroom stuff and things you hear about. And unfortunately, studios like Filmation suffer because of it. And because Hanna-Barbera pulled a lot of stuff that they're still going strong, but some of the stuff they did at the time was not above board all the time.
Very true. Very true.
It's so true. There are so many, backroom deals and everything that happen in all especially the entertainment corporations. It's like, I remember when Disney bought Fox, and I was just like, why are you shutting this whole studio down when you could, reinvigorate it and create it as a subsidiary, that's still releasing all of this stuff? Why are you, just completely gutting it and doing all this? And it's, backroom stuff. It's, recently too, the cancellation of Batgirl, and stuff. It's like, I was telling people, oh, there was all kinds of backroom deals going on and why that was canceled. It wasn't, it was a perfect storm of stuff. But I was like, it wasn't just because of a tax rebate. It's like,
and I was looking forward to it because going back again to Filmation, they, for the time, in the original series, they did in the 60s, they showed Batgirl as a sometimes fairly competent crime fighter. She wasn't just a damsel in distress, you know. And in the new series, in that first episode with the Moon Man, she's the one that figures out who he is before Batman does.
Exactly.
Mhm.
So it's like, this character that, and I think in the animation she actually portrayed a bit better than she was in the Adam West series, personally. So again, when I see these characters on screen, I like to see the influences that these previous things may have had on it. Like we were talking about Aquaman earlier. And so I was looking forward to it because I'd like to see if they're going to have any bit of Filmation Batgirl in this character. And we see anything that influenced the comics. Because all the modern comic stuff is influenced by this kind of thing. Because, again, it was talking to kids, not down to them. It was sometimes dealing with adult subject matter in certain ways, whether it be the ecological stuff in Manta and Moray, whether it be the team stuff in Space Sentinels, or whether it be the edgier stuff that Fat Albert Cosby kids started to get into when they got syndicated, because they dealt with some stuff like assault and drug abuse and stuff that they couldn't get away with on Saturday morning. And so
that's right.
And I think this is why something should be swept under the rug, the studio, and why I'm so passionate about it, because, again, speaking for myself. Go ahead, Joe.
I learned some of the things that gave me values from these shows. I can remember some of these episodes. I remember that Fat Albert episode about Suede, the kid that had bad hygiene, and they were laughing at him and stuff, and Fat Albert kind of pulled him to the side, and they talked to Suede, and they talked to him about his hygiene. He got his stuff together. That stuff, I'm 45, and I still remember it like it's yesterday. So that stuff resonates with you. That stuff is a value. You can't put a price on it.
Yeah, I got to say that probably, I didn't realize this till later, but the past couple times I worked for the Census Bureau, I've had a great supervisor, a manager, strong, competent black women, and like, well, why does this seem natural to me? I don't mean in a bad way, because I was raised right, but the thing is, I think I trace it back to having seen back Space Sentinels. Astrid is they take their orders or their missions from the computerized guy, whatever his name was, but she was the one that set the example. She's the one that set out the mission parameters when they're out on the field. And like you said, that's a lesson that stuck with me, or an idea that stuck with me to this day, because it was presented to me so naturally.
Yes.
And so just, okay, this is just part of things. And I like shows when the cast or the way it's written, like I think some of the best shows, it might have a ethnically centered family or whatever, but if it's written really well, you can see your family members in that show.
That's right. That's you can take me out, put you in. We can take he out, put she in. It transcends across. That's totally correct.
Right, and that's one of the things I think the studio did for kids. I mean, you had what was that show? Arc 2? Where it's like after a big natural disaster, these guys are going around trying to teach people how to bring their civilization back. And again, a diverse cast, but any one of those characters could have been any ethnicity, and you still get that same, oh, these guys are so cool. They have a jetpack. They have this giant tank lab thing going on, and they're teaching people cool stuff. I mean, and that's what good entertainment should be. And these guys, I think, led the way in that for kids' entertainment. It even when they were that He-Man and Bravestar, which were selling toys, they still found some way to put some kind of moral lesson or intelligent concept into it for kids to think about.
True. Very true.
No, it is so accurate, and it's kind of what we mentioned earlier, that it feels like a lot of modern animation is missing those kind of stories for kids, because like I remember, I grew up watching the Batman the animated series and stuff, and like I still have vivid memories of watching that at 5 years old. It's like I remember watching on TV. It's like my parents have pictures of me that I had this what was it, like the what is some type of like material bat cowl, and I would always like put it on and go sit on the couch and
Yep.
watch the show, and and there were so many good lessons, because it didn't talk down to you, as you guys said. It's like, I've been revisiting some of the animated series on HBO Max, and just watching those episodes, I'm like, man, this was like a kids show. It's like, and it's so cool to be able to have that, especially as you grow up, because like you said, it gives you a foundation, and sometimes even if you might forget some of that stuff, it's ingrained in you, and then it comes out in your adult life because it was something that was put into your ethical upbringing.
Yeah, and Alan Burnett, I think, who wrote for Batman the Animated Series and some episodes, I think he did some writing for Filmation as well as for Hanna-Barbera. So some of these guys got some of their starts in some of these early studios.
Yeah.
It went to others.
And some of the guys that they were interviewing on some of these things that you can catch like on YouTube or some of these documentaries, they'll tell you, we went to Filmation because we wanted to learn, we wanted to learn the basics and really learn what we were doing without cutting corners and, trying to, basically they wanted the meat of it, and they didn't want to get the fast experience. They wanted to get in and get the grind of it. And it probably took them somewhere to those other companies, but the difference is they had a structured background and they had a knowledge of what went into it.
Yeah, I think they said the only person that outworked the studio was probably Bill Cosby. He had like new episodes every day. He was cranking out stuff all the time, and they said I think it was, they talked to Lou Scheimer, one of those guys, and said that there's very few people out there that had a work ethic that they had set up for their studio, and that's saying something. And I think, unfortunately, animation kind of reflects society where we grew up with a certain work ethic.
Mm-hmm.
I remember my dad telling me, it doesn't matter if you make 50 cents an hour or $5,000 an hour, people will know you by the work you put out, how you work.
That's right.
Very true. Mm-hmm.
And I think because a lot of people in the studio for Lou Scheimer were guys that were born in the 50s, 40s and 50s, and different generations, so that work ethic showed through. I think with Batman Animated Series, a few of those, the reason they were quality is because, like me and Joe here, children of the 70s and 80s, that work ethic was still there. And then today, if they can run it through a computer and have it animated in half the time for half the cost and sell as many action figures as possible, or rather than presenting kids with, okay, here's an idea, think forward on yourself, they turn around and go, okay, we're going to beat this into you, we're going to make everybody happy and get off the air and do it as cheaply as possible, but we're not going to put any actual effort into it. And I liked, even if I didn't always rewatching stuff now, like rewatching Manta and Moray, I might not always like the way things turned out, but I like that they made me think. I like that they made me make up my own mind, even as a kid. They let me make up my own mind of what they're showing me.
Yeah. It was never always. It was never one-sided, like all protagonists, all antagonists. You went back and forth, and then you circle around, and it was always in a result.
Yep, and also they weren't afraid to sneak in stuff. We're watching this. I rewatched a couple episodes of Superstretch and Microwoman. I come to realize Microwoman was the detective. She was not really necessarily the smarter of the two, but where Stretch was kind of the people person.
Yes.
He had the more outgoing personality. Usually, when the mysteries got solved, Microwoman did it. So they very subtly did ways to show, okay, this person can be an equal. They can even be a superior at times.
True.
But it's not bragging and high fiving. It was just their marriage, and that was neat for a kid to see back then. Hey, they're married superheroes on TV, and they're doing things and stuff, and even though they had the Plastic Man show with whatever I can't even remember the wife's name or the sidekick's name.
I watched. Yeah, I'm with you on that because I watched them, but I did. You know what? I didn't really ever deep dive their characters because I think by the time they were kind of really mainstream, I ventured off into other areas and.
Yeah, I mean, I still remember the dog's name on their show was Trouble, but I can't remember the sidekick's name on Plastic Man because it was just so corny and so dumb.
Yeah.
And as a kid who liked to read and stuff like that, and I liked the show stuff Filmation was putting out because it was like, hey, I have a brain. They're treating me like I have a brain. This is cool.
Yep, we looked at them and they showed you them working with big old big computers and they're getting a hint off a little piece of paper and the computer's processing this for 20, 30 minutes and then they get a clue about the size of a fortune cookie paper and they're going off of that.
Yeah, it was I think one of the biggest things I liked about this is because as an adult I can go back and watch some of these shows on YouTube, or I think Flash Gordon's on Tubi, their version, and I think one of their versions, I could be wrong. What didn't for a while on HBO Max they have some of the Filmation Batman, Byron? I think it's on Tubi now though.
Yes, I remember. I remember originally the Batman show was on there because I remember I was thinking, "Oh, I'm going to check that out," and then it was gone. I was like, "What happened to it?" Because I was interested because I remember thinking like, "Oh, I didn't know there was an animated Batman show before the animated series."
Yeah,
it was. Yeah.
And they did a version in '68 and one in '77, and I think the one in '68 actually had Olin Solie and Casey Kasem, who became Batman and Robin and the original Super Friends. And the '77 version, I think, had Adam West and Burt Ward redo their roles. The version with Batmite.
Oh, that's interesting.
And their utility belts and his magic took over because by then they reduced the amount of violence on TV. Because the '68 version, I mean, it wasn't crazy, but man could throw a punch or swing something at a bad guy and stop him. Stuff like that. I mean, like I said, it wasn't over the top, but it wasn't nearly what Batman animated series was. But you saw punches thrown, you saw Robin doing somersault kicks into bad guys and stuff, and that got replaced when they changed the policies for violence on cartoons. That's why Flash Gordon and He-Man had robots as bad guys.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's interesting. So they
yeah.
had some almost like the Hays Code almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. And but again, they had some kind of guy that was like the Pie Man or something, or Candy Man on the '70s version of Batman. Filmation did, and he ate nothing but candy and how he had teeth and bad health. And
well, you sure that wasn't me? Because I like candy.
Not this time, Joe. But
okay.
But it was like their way of sneaking in a lesson, into the series. And it was definitely more lighthearted than the '68 series was, but they still found ways to still have some kind of morals to teach kids, or like that first episode with the Moon Man. Not only was it a character that not only is the first black astronaut that I remember seeing in animation or being depicted into pop culture, he's also a friend of Bruce Wayne's. Oh, yeah, we went to college together. We're college buddies. I mean, very casual. I mean, I know the 70s was a lot better than previous decades as far as race relations, but that little part there I thought was a really big deal. And it's in a kid's cartoon. Oh, you can be friends with anybody.
True.
And then once they found out who the bad guy was and what his motivations were, it wasn't, okay, let's throw batarangs at him and do this. Let's encourage him to get his act together and solve the problem and do this. So, again, there's always some way, even if they had the adventure going on, like we discussed before so far, is it was actually trying to show kids morals, rather than just, like I said, sell them a toy or, whether he show something on a kid's story. Okay, this is what we believe. Whether it be whatever side of the aisle is, I think there's a lot of kids entertainment that concentrates so much on, from different points of view, trying to show kids, okay, this is it. This is all you can think about. Or those, like I said before, they gave you an idea and said, you think about it.
And like, it's funny that you said that, because I remember, and I love toys. I always love action figures, but you couldn't just bring me an action figure without me not knowing who he was, what he stood for, and I didn't play that. Like, I had to know there were certain characters that I liked. I may have multiple of those, and there was some I didn't like. I may have one because it completed the set, but I didn't really mess with them. So they had an identity and they had a special place. Like right now, I know I got for sure 3 Flash t-shirts in there. You know me, I love Bane. Bane is still one of my favorite villains, things that resonate with you to this day. I think the Stormtrooper is one of the worst characters ever depicted, because they were dressed up and hot and they had no aim, but they're still present. Like, you remember all this stuff, but it takes it back. Like, and my nephews, it's funny, they see me watching these old Filmation things. So when they come over now, they're 9 and 7. They're like, Uncle Mo, can we watch Fat Albert, or can we watch this?
Oh,
They've
cool.
seen my youngest nephew is an Aquaman. That's his thing. So I'm going to show him the old Aquaman now, because his Aquaman is Jason Momoa, but I'm going to get him hooked on this cartoon so he can see the orange shirt with the fish scales and stuff.
Yeah, and it's cool. He rides a giant seahorse and he punches torpedoes out, and he has his own lab. Yeah, he'd dig that, I think, because, wow. Speaking of legacies and action figures, there's and again, we're not trying to promote anything here, but there's a site called figures.com. They make Mego style action figures, and these guys did the Filmation Batman with the emblem he wore in the cartoon. Filmation Riddler in the purple suit. Red suit. I'm sorry, red suit with a black question mark, and their version of the Joker. And once we get some of this stuff finished up on our remodel and my shelves are clear again, I'm not sure which one I'm going to buy, but I've got to get one of them because, for years growing up, Filmation Batman was my Batman.
Gotcha.
And so. And like you said, these companies that are just rediscovering these characters, rediscovering this legacy, I think it's great that such a wonderful studio that touched us, a lot of people, me and Jamoso's ages, are still find ways to keep it alive, to watch it, to enjoy it, because it just speaks to how much it was such a neat part of our childhood.
Oh yeah, that man, I'm telling you, like at some point today, probably as I iron my clothes and get my work week ready, that's what I do. My wife will come in and she'll be like, she will actually come in my theater room and she'll pull up a chair and we'll watch 2 or 3 episodes of Fat Albert and laugh. And I can remember vividly, like there's some episodes I can reflect back to being on my grandparents' couch and us letting out the what do you call that thing? The sofa bed. We'll let out the sofa bed and wrap up in a blanket, and we're looking at these cartoons and getting a bowl of dry cereal, and just it takes you back there. You can remember what you were doing.
Yep. And when my kids were younger, and like for Father's Day, my birthday, we'd get up and I'd pull these up on YouTube and say, "Hey, check this out." And they're like, "What?" Um, uh, I remember when we rewatched the Sam Jones Flash Gordon movie from the '80s. I showed my son the Flash Gordon cartoon the Filmation did. And here recently, I've gone to these cons, and like talking to people, getting new leads and stuff, just doing the job. And I've ran into young people, especially a couple of young people that are African American, and they have no idea about these cartoons. Then you explain it to them, and their jaws drop. And I said, "Yeah, this is part of an animation legacy. It's part of everybody's legacy. You should go check it out."
I will put this stuff on at lunchtime, and you should see the amount of people that will come in my classroom, and it's movie time. We'll sit there and watch an episode, and if you look at people's body language and the smiles, and it's nostalgia. It takes you back to a place. And then I have people be like, "Man, Wilson, I saw that in your class today. I'm looking at it with my family now." And that's what it does. And I just think the more that people are exposed to it, I think the more people will gravitate and really do their own research, because everybody's not going to feel the way we feel about it, but they're going to, like you say, they're going to get their own view, vantage point,
Right.
and feel out of it. They may get something totally different, and that's okay because we're all individual.
Yeah, and what's funny is for some young people, you talk about what's come before, and they go right to the X-Men cartoon, or right to the Justice League cartoon, where they had like the John Stewart Green Lantern and Justice League, or Storm, the X-Men. But when you go further back to Filmation, go, "Oh no, there was these characters here, there's those characters there," and they're like, "Wait a minute."
See, I look for distinct characters. Who do you think my favorite character was on Justice League? And I'll give you a clue. It wasn't a good guy.
Oh, it was either Joker or Bane.
Nope. Or is it Justice League or Super Friend? My favorite person Solomon Grundy. That was my dude. Like to this day, like, and I have a buddy that calls me Solomon Grundy because I would imitate Solomon Grundy, and that's what I gravitated to. And I look at stuff like that. We need more characters like that.
Yeah, it's funny because actually, Tom Cook, who did some of the cell work on Super Friends and design work with Alex Toth, I actually got a print from him he signed, and it's from the Challenge of Super Friends era. So of course Grundy's on there,
Yes,
and
man.
Oh man,
Yeah, you got your Grundys, your Bizarros, all those, man. That stuff was fun.
It was, and
Solomon Grundy's a great character.
Man, for real.
Yeah, I would love to have seen if they had got the license to it. Couldn't you see a Groovy Ghoulies type show by Filmation starring Bizarro and Grundy?
For real.
That would be hilarious. Because oh gosh, And the Groovy Ghoulies. I mean, they found a way to make fun of the Universal monsters, and it was hilarious. Wow, Grundy.
I'm t-
I remember I was disappointed that we didn't get more of him in the Arrow TV show, because they did like references to him with I think with Cyrus Gold and stuff, but they never actually. I was hoping, with his apparent death, in the show, I was like, oh, we're gonna get Solomon Grundy, and then they never went back to it, and I was disappointed.
just
Yeah, I want a
just
rhyming
like
bad guy that smacks people in the head. What's wrong with that?
just just like in He-Man, everybody had their favorite mainstream. Ram Man is still my favorite. Like me and Ram Man, that's my boy. Like I like the main characters, but I like to find me a guy that's in the background that he may not seem all that, but you didn't want to mess with Ram Man.
I liked Beast Man. I don't know if it's intentional or not, but there's episodes where Skeletor says something, and looks at him like, "Are you insane or what, dude?" And I don't know if it's intentional on the part of the animators, but to me, sometimes he had that look on his face, like, "What? That is ridiculous." you know, he wants to go back in the forest and chill. He wants to hang out with his buddies, and here's this guy with a skull for a head coming up with some really dumb stuff to do for the afternoon.
Oh. No, I wanted to ask you guys, since the GIF that has been going around on social media of Skeletor like running away, is that from Filmation?
Yeah, that was their era to do the cartoon.
Okay,
I
because
love that.
Yeah.
I've used that GIF quite a lot, and I always wondered where it came from, and so now I know.
And also the one where he shows him rolling, like the stop, drop, and roll thing.
Yeah.
That's Filmation era too.
Oh, that's hilarious. Oh, that's funny. So many people are using that, and they don't realize where it came from.
And the video they did where somebody redid a He-Man or Prince Adam to the techno version of What's Going On.
Wow.
That's Filmation era He-Man. That is yeah.
That gift, like he's saying, I use that in my classroom sometime. Like if I may say something smart, and I'll shoot that to my smart board, like me being a D-bag about it, but it fits. It fits.
Oh, it really does. Oh. Oh, man. So Filmation, they ran how long was that studio like how long were they running? Were they doing films and shows for?
Well, they started with their first films they came out with was in the 60s.
Okay. Huh.
And they lasted all the way through the 80s.
Was it like mid 80s?
Yeah, Bravestar was their final show. They did a short film called His Mother Marveled, came out in 1963.
Wow. Huh.
And in 66
I didn't realize they had their own Ghostbusters as well too. I did not realize that.
Yeah, and they were before the Ivan Reitman, Bill Murray guys.
So that gives me something else. See, that's going to be another piece of research for me, because I did not know that. I saw that.
And I have been building this TV and movie comic collection. I forget the company who did it, but they did like 3 or 4 issues. I saw that in that box. They were like $1 a piece. I picked those up, and they're funny. I mean, they brought over the plot lines really, really funny. The comedy's there, and yeah, they did the Brady Kids cartoon. And
gotcha.
What was funny, looking at the history, is the Brady Kids was on ABC, and they brought on one episode had Superman, and one had Wonder Woman guest starring. And that group setting was actually one of the inspirations for the Hanna-Barbera version of the Super Friends.
Gotcha.
So, Yeah, they were interconnected for a while. But yeah, it's they did a lot, and again, with a lot of shows do the serialized storytelling. The first season of Flash Gordon was done like the newspaper strips, where it was a serialized story, and one
Yes.
always led into the other. And you were talking about Prince Baron earlier. You put him up on your stuff sometimes, Jamoso.
Yeah.
The first few episodes of that season, everybody's talking so much trash to Flash Gordon, and he just goes and just takes care of business. Like, okay, we can even ask the Earthman now.
Right.
I'll have to look up because I'm very curious now because just seeing how much Filmation did. I wonder if there was I remember as a kid seeing this animated movie. I think it was like a 30-40 minute film, and it was based off of the book The Pilgrim's Progress, and it was from 1978. And the animation looked very much like Filmation. Like it was just that style very much. And I wonder if anyone from that studio was involved in that. I'll have to research and look into that. I'm curious now.
Well, it was the 60s or 70s.
Mm-hmm.
The artist did other work.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as it wasn't a product, I think that conflicted with what Filmation was putting out, they were allowed to go do other work because, Lou Scheimer understood that the animation jobs didn't pay as well as other jobs. That's why it had a small group of people working, and that's how he kept costs down as well. That's because he wasn't like, you work for this company, Hanna-Barbera, Disney, whoever, so you only can animate or work on this one right now, or it's else, Mister. They actually did said, okay, well, as long as it's not something that can conflict with our
That's right.
work and doesn't have Filmation
right.
logo on it, you're feel free to do that. You got a family to support, so as long as you're meeting your deadlines, cool.
Yeah, and I don't think I've come across any of the guys or dolls that work at Filmation that had anything bad to say about leadership and management there, because they said it was family-like. Like you say, Scheimer took out of his pocket. He did the dirty work. He got right in with them. It was just a conglomerate of people with one goal, and that was to put out quality animation.
Yep. And then we started doing live action shows, the same quality went over. Even if they didn't have the budget to do anything, they did the best they could and made sure you were involved as a kid in what they were doing. You felt like you're part of it. Because they just made things so fascinating. That's why I love Space Academy. It's because you got teenage kids that are trying to learn about alien races and whatever, but sometimes get involved with some hair-raising adventure stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And but they're still teenagers. They're still, if I lived in this world, I could be right there in that mix. And that was something unique for them.
Backtracking to what Byron asked about how long it said Filmation went from, what is it, from 69 to 82.
And that's a long period. Wow.
Yeah.
And they put out a lot of content too in that amount of time.
Yeah.
And quality stuff. That's what's a trip. Like, hey, they gave us some good things.
They did. And I've like one of the online games I play, on occasion, if I'm just fooling around with something like a character idea or whatever, there's a couple times I have used some of their idea concepts for a character design. I mean, I keep them because I'm using them like on the test server or whatever, but it's like, hey, what if could I make this Filmation guy into this character here and see what I can do about him running around fighting bad guys or whatever. And it's fun, and that that idea is just kind of has stayed there over the years because it's such a again they're such a neat studio, and while the height of after Wonder Woman came out, there was not a lot of female superheroes on either cartoons or live action TV. And Filmation doubled down with ISIS. They did a live action show, Secrets of ISIS, which tied into
That's right.
Shazam and the DC universe. And then they had their own original series called Freedom Force, which brought Hercules in from the Space Sentinels, had a bunch of mythological, legendary characters as their super team, and ISIS was the leader. So they doubled down with this character, and I remember when we used to have this satellite system, there's one channel. As soon as 8:30 at night hit, it was Secrets of ISIS, He-Man, She-Ra, one right after the other. And I watched these with my daughter, and she was so fascinated. There's this cool female superhero, and
isn't ISIS returning in Black Adam? Aren't they bringing that character back?
They are,
or a form of it.
Yeah. Sometimes what the comics did to ISIS and the original character and the way she's portrayed in DC Universe Online, I'm like, you know what? This is I'm just going to play the alternate reality game that DC and Marvel like to play alternate because it's part of their products or whatever, but this isn't ISIS.
And you know who we didn't mention that I just saw that just popped up on that New Adventures of Mighty Mouse.
Oh, dude!
Yes, I remember Mighty Mouse.
Yeah.
And were they the ones that got in trouble for the one where we sniffing the flowers or whatever? Was it Filmation?
It may have been because when they rebought Mighty, it was the New Adventures of Mighty Mouse and Heckle and Jekyll. I always love those guys. Like, yeah, it's you look at some of this stuff now, and it's like they got their hand on so many things. Like, it was one you mentioned that I didn't see. I'm gonna get that today. Like, I'm looking at what is this one? I just passed it. Like I've seen ISIS, like Mission Magic. I don't remember that.
Yep, and they had one called Uncle Rock's Block. It was hosted by Charles Nelson Riley, who was like on Hollywood Squares all the time and all these game shows.
Yeah.
Comedy guy. He hosted it. And what they did is they made fun of TV shows. Like they had an all dog version of MASH called Mush.
I can only imagine.
It was Filmation doing a parody show, and then they had a couple of original things like that weren't based strictly on parody stuff, but they made fun of Captain Kangaroo, Sherlock Holmes.
And this is one. Remember, I told you my grandmother would watch Star Trek with me, but my grandfather would watch this Tarzan, Lone Ranger, and Zorro adventure. That's like all in one.
The other day, my wife was doing some stuff Saturday morning, so I had the big TV in the bedroom to myself. So I got a bowl of cereal and sat down, pulled up YouTube, found a list of Filmation cartoons. It was before I built a playlist for you guys, and I was like, wait a minute, they have the Lone Ranger.
Yeah, and that was a good one.
Yeah, it was.
That was really good.
Yep, and like I said, they had a combo show there for a while. It was Tarzan, Zorro, and the Lone Ranger. And watching especially Tarzan and Lone Ranger, it's amazing because those characters started out as pulp characters.
That's right.
Which is written for a more adult market. But they found a way to make sure the show's for kids, but keep the characters at the intelligence level they were in those older pulps and movies. And I thought that was a really big deal because you get some of these characters and they want to dumb them down, and it's like, no, Tarzan was still Tarzan. Zorro was still, but they couldn't do as much with the swords as they could, of course, because of the rules written. But
Mhm.
it's like, hey, he's still doing the acrobatic stuff and the fancy sword things and harassing the bad guys by poking fun at him. So it's still Zorro, you know.
Yeah. Yep.
And it was neat because they were able to find cartoons that weren't necessarily superheroes or characters that weren't necessarily superheroes, and find a way to make a good adventure cartoon for kids.
So what do you see, like, as we stand right now in 2022, 23 almost, what do you see that's getting as close to Filmation as we can get right now? Anything that you see? Because I don't myself.
Oh, that's just it. Because I would say some of the DC animated universe movies, but the way they're written and done, they're so violent. And even though they might
That,
be
that-
more intelligent on an adult level, and and I know in Batman animated series and Justice League they had their own level of violence, and so did some of the early Filmation stuff. And then Bravestar, you know, the opening sequence, the guy is doing a running sidekick, knocks one of the bad guys off of his horse. So I know that part of adventure action cartoons is that, but the thing is, there's nothing I see right now written on an intelligent level that had just right enough action and adventure. Um, that had intelligence level. Well, going back to Roswell, maybe. Um, because, and again, that's not tied into any toys either. It's an independent
okay.
done. It's done by a smaller studio. It was
Well,
done to kind of cash in on the X Files.
well, I'm glad y'all mentioned that because that's really piqued my interest, and I like it's right here on this notepad, and I'm gonna deep dive that.
That's one of the few cartoons, not studios, but cartoons, and again, it's independently done, I've seen as level. And I think it may be a a cartoon of French origin, if I'm not mistaken. The animation looks like it's one of those type of European studios.
Okay.
Yeah, but as far as something that deals on a kid's level of violence or something you wouldn't be scared to you know, again, I think that um, like your grandma watching Star Trek cartoon with you, or your grandpa
Mhm.
watching those cartoons with you. I remember my dad sometimes either he'd get up to watch cartoons with us, or every once in a while when he came home from work, if he worked an overnight shift, before he went right to bed, he'd have a cereal bowl with me and my brother and watch some of these cartoons with us. And he liked the Tarzan one.
The only other thing that my grandfather would watch with me and it wasn't a cartoon, it was that Muppets little variety show that came on like early in the
Yeah,
morning on TBS. That's the only
yeah,
other thing he would watch like this. He was all business, but he liked it. He liked the Lone Ranger and Tarzan thing, and so
right.
I was fine
Yeah,
with it.
yeah. And I'm saying it to say this. I think that the cartoons were safer for kids back then, but also parents were more involved with what kids were watching. And I think that these days, unfortunately, the parents aren't involved with what their kids are watching. And I think people like you, and I love HBO Max, but you look up Justice League or Super Friends, and then you're going to see 10 anime shows they've got imported. And you might see the little box that's TV 14 if you're looking for it. But it's showing the same strip of show searches as Super Friends. So you're like, oh, okay, it might be okay for kids to watch, but it wasn't. And so, getting back to your original question, it's so hard to find that level of stuff. Like I said, the Justice League stuff, the DC stuff they did before they went crazy with their current animated series, and unfortunately, I think animation is going too hard the other direction now. Like Harley Quinn, I only watched episode 1 of that. I had to stop it because it's like, okay, you can't try to make an animated version with a female lead of Deadpool and concentrate only on the grossness of it and the violence of it, and not realize that Deadpool is actually done as kind of the current version of a Mel Brooks movie. Everybody's a target. Everybody is being made fun of. And they're doing it in such a way as to get past a lot of the political correctness. And when I watch it in that vein, that I can deal with those. But the thing is, the Harley Quinn cartoon, a couple others are just the whole point is shock value,
Yeah.
or let's see what we can do to. And sometimes I feel like they do some of these new cartoons like Jellystone because they're saying, you know what, I'm going to mess with somebody's childhood.
Yeah. I didn't even realize that wasn't Harley Quinn cartoon till one day I was just looking up some stuff and I was like, So I've never watched it, so
Don't.
okay. Okay.
Because a character that they showed in, like, for example, Suicide Squad, the first one, and then somewhat in the second one, was someone that has intelligence, has her own agenda. She's dealing somewhat, and a little bit, and I gotta say that part of this showed up as well as in the Birds of Prey movie. But this character's done these 3 movies. Margot Robbie's portrayed, who has this vulnerability, who has this tough side, and you can root for her in these movies and in the original animated series. So I watched this first episode, and I've seen it every once in a while because people will show clips in my social media of this show, and I watch it, and I'm like, what are you guys? And it's renewed for a 3rd season now. I'm like, what is DC smoking? Because when you do the Margot Robbie stuff and the animated series, see I don't see a replacement or a descendant of Filmation I would really see right now. I would myself, because they some of these smaller either on YouTube or these smaller streaming stations like Tubi that's all commercial done. Look at the stuff they have there, because on the Roswell cartoon, they do like other streaming services do. You might like these as well. And sometimes you might find duds, sometimes you might find gems. I mean, they had a Stargate cartoon done for a short time, and I tried to watch it, but it wasn't. After watching the Stargate TV series and movies, it was a bit of a letdown. But there is stuff out there. There's one that was last for 1 season. It was based off a comic book, and it is crazy, but it's something that would probably if Filmation had done this one, I wouldn't be surprised. It was done after they closed down. It's called Cadillacs and Dinosaurs.
Wow, never heard of it.
I haven't heard of that one.
I think it's on Tubi, maybe, but it's like, what if a time rift or other stuff happened? And so you got this guy who's a mercenary, this working jobs for other people, trying to get by and do these things. But the problem is that all the dinosaurs are back. So so this was Jurassic World Dominion before Jurassic World Dominion, but it's done in a much crazier style.
Gotcha.
And yeah, unfortunately, there's not a whole lot. And all these 80s cartoons are on Tubi as well, but all of them, they went the whole, of course, commercials for toys premise, like Cops and King Arthur Knights of Justice. But unfortunately, they didn't have a studio like Filmation backing them. So even though they might try to have some kind of morals there, they come off more like they don't even have the knowing is half the battle G.I. Joe did type of thing going on. They just hope you get it, and occasionally might have somebody talk about things, but there's no, what they call popcorn movies, a movie you can watch, eat popcorn with, and turn your brain off. That's what these cartoons are like.
Gotcha.
So there's no replacement I see at the time for Filmation. I'm hoping as newer, if working at about this studio and things like it, that these younger filmmakers will take a look back and, hey, we can do this. We can do stuff that's quality. Let kids think for themselves, entertain them. And that's what I would like to see. And there's so much stuff in that catalog. I don't know I know Hallmark used to own it at one time. Spielberg used to own it at one time. I don't know who owns it now. But it would be great to see these come back in a way, or somebody take these ideas and go, hey, we can build on this. We can make this great. Or we can do this for kids again, and not dumb it down, or not make it into one giant sheet to check off. Oh, well, this is what I feel about things, so I'm gonna feed it to somebody. And it's like, when and growing up reading authors like C.S. Lewis or Tolkien or these guys, they might have had concepts in their books they're trying to tell you, but you were entertained first, and then you go back and think about it and went, oh, I get that. And that's what
Mm-hmm.
Filmation for me was, and the more serious cartoons was, hey, what were they? That's what they were trying to say? Okay, I get it. That's a neat idea. But
And I'll respect it. Yeah.
yeah.
It's true. And I was thinking about what you guys were saying, like any shows that are coming up, and the one that I have my eye on, and I have no idea how it's going to end up turning out, is the new Batman one, Batman Caped Crusader.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Matt Reeves is producing it, I think. And I have no idea how that's going to turn out, if it's going to end up being kind of like what you said, William, of the more ultra violent, like DC cartoons, or if it's going to be more like a throwback. I'm not 100% sure.
Right. And the thing is, and I'm not sure where they're going either, because I saw an interview with where they talked to Bruce Timm, who did the animated series, and who said they wanted more freedom to include more stuff. They couldn't include the original series, inclusivity, more adult concepts. And then Matt Reeves is producing it. I'm like, okay, this would go either direction.
Yeah.
Either we'll have an intelligent series that that has maybe Batman the Animated Series level of violence, where they let you think about what they're doing, or we're going to have an ultra violent series that has a slanted point of view that's going to talk down to people. And I think there's too much entertainment like that already.
No, I definitely agree. Yeah, I'm hoping for the former. Is what I'm definitely hoping for.
I would like a show again where me and Joe could watch it, even if we're not watching it together, we're watching it separately. And did you see that? Did you see that? Yeah, what'd you get out of it? Well, I got this, because those are conversations, like I said, we had while we had downtime where we worked at. And that's having those differences of opinion and points of view over something that presented that didn't have really a major slant one or the other, like I said, except for maybe Manta and Moray, but be able to talk about something and filter for your point of view, not the company's, I think was probably one of the things I still hold this company so fondly, is because the way they actually thought about the kids first, not about the money, not about the tie-ins, not about who do I have to make happy, because they were their own studio, not farm things out like Jamoso said. So they were able to make those decisions and put the people that are making the shows and movies for the kids first.
True.
That's very true. Oh man. Well, as we get to the end of our discussion, one question I do want to ask you guys is: do you guys have a top 5 favorite pieces of content from Filmation?
Oh man.
That's probably a hard question.
Man. Oh man. I kind of thought this would come up. Oh man. I know for sure. Probably number 1 for me is just going to be Fat Albert, because I spent so much time in Fat Albert. I mean, I love He-Man too. I really, really love He-Man. That Flash Gordon, was like, yeah, that Flash Gordon. Man, then I look at, I cannot leave that Lone Ranger and the Lone Ranger Zorro and Tarzan. I can't leave it out. And maybe a number 5. it's hard for me to leave that Star Trek too, because it takes me back to being with my grandparents. Like I had a show for each of them. So, and then the Fat Albert was me and my sister and my neighbors. So I think all of them have like just a childhood tie to them, and a real distinct reflection on where I was.
And I think that's just a testament, to the studio and their content work.
Yeah. Wow.
It's hard. It's hard.
Well, Freedom Force, because at the time it came out, I think I was, because we didn't have a middle school when I was coming up. I think I was in 6th grade, and I can't remember if it was the reruns, because they reshuffled their stuff several times for their content, part of the Super 7 and whatnot. But I remember we just started looking at world history and mythology, which I loved, and Super 7, the Freedom Force was on, so Sinbad, Merlin, Isis, we're talking about these guys, like, hey, there's a cartoon version of these guys I'm studying in school. So I thought that was neat. Wow. I think BlackStar, because a guy that was an astronaut that just rode around on a dragon.
Like
it wasn't, his horse wasn't good enough for John BlackStar. He had to have a flying dragon as his ride. So I thought that was just so cool. I think the middle, I mean, the Aquaman series was cool, but I thought the middle episodes where they rotated through the different characters, because growing up we were reprinting a lot of the Silver Age stuff from DC. And so the Flash, Adam and Hawkman, I'm reading these because I buy these. My mom would take me to the store and buy these reprints because I'm a Batman story in them. I was a big Batman fan. And then you see these crazy versions with the little tweaks on differences in the costume, and it's like, wait, what happened? But they're fun stories. I think there's the series Walter Kitty, where this cat daydreamed about different versions of himself. I forget who his sidekick was, but he had a daydream where he was Catman. And I know there were a lot of parodies of the Batman TV series at the time, but to me that was the best one. I mean, it just was so hilarious the way that they treated it. And wow.
I'll tell you this, if you ask my mom, she would say the Archie thing. My mom loved that Archie thing.
Yeah, the Archies were cool. Oh, well, yeah, the Archies were cool. In fact, it was funny because I think back on that cartoon, and Riverdale upset me thinking back on that cartoon. Because because my first exposure was Archie's, and that's my number 5. Thank you, Jamoso. But I couldn't decide, but that kind of pulled me that direction. Because it was peppy, it was fun, and again, talking about way your friends were, everybody knew somebody like Reggie and Jughead and those other, Benny, all them. And even though I enjoyed the comics, it coming to life in that cartoon. And then what's funny is I can't remember any other song besides Sugar Sugar. I know they did a couple in that cartoon, but yeah, it was because it was anticipation, because they used to show out of Houston. I can't remember, it was 2639 at the time when I was a kid. You knew once Archie was over with, Aquaman was coming on.
Yep. That's right.
And yeah, so a lot of fun, a lot of craziness with the chase scenes and whatnot, and the music on Archie. Or after that, you knew Aquaman and the Justice League people were coming right after that, and that was just fun. Part of the fun being a kid back then.
It was life.
Yeah.
Like right now, I can tell you, realistically, definitely cartoon-wise, I don't have a show that I look forward to. That's why I always go back into my files and look at stuff. Like, there's not really many things I can just be like, oh man, I gotta go watch this new episode today, or let me watch this. It's not there for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking about that. There's only one show that I can think of that would be on a Filmation level. Is probably Brave and the Bold, the Batman series, Brave and the Bold.
Okay.
Because intelligently written, there's the right amount of action in it, and they're willing to take lesser known characters and include them in the series. And you know, there is some conversations where there's some wisdom in the conversations Batman has with their characters, because they kind of make him the central character in this universe, and he explains to people sometimes you don't have to do this to do this. You can just take care of business here. And yeah, that's the other one besides Roswell I can think of that's even close to what Filmation did. But
Gotcha.
And well, I've been very excited to learn, more about this studio over the course of our conversation. I've already written down some shows to start catching up on.
Yeah.
Like I already found a playlist on YouTube of a Bravestar and New Adventures of Zorro, and stuff. And I'm like,
Oh yeah.
I'm definitely gonna be checking these shows out now. Um, and I think it's so great, when when fandoms, of certain things like Filmation, that it's by word of mouth, really, and it's
Hmm.
by like talking and sharing, like you guys are with me right now. And so it's very cool to be able to discover something that I'm fairly certain I'm gonna love. It's like just when I
Yeah.
take a look at something, I'm like, I know I'm gonna enjoy this.
And yeah, likewise, like you guys giving me this Roswell conspiracies. I know me. Like when I turn my ironing stuff on today and start ironing, I'm gonna turn on my surround sound. I'm just gonna dive in and my
yeah,
Oh.
and the way they play with mythology, you're going to
Mhm.
think, wow, if back in the day they had done this, they would have done this, man.
Yeah,
yeah.
Uh,
I have a feeling you're probably going to enjoy it. It's a fun show. It's very creative. It takes a lot of tropes and a lot of like mythology, like William said, but it kind of like puts its own spin on it, which is really interesting. And I didn't actually know it was on Tubi, so I'm probably going to actually go and watch some episodes of that today as well, because like I haven't seen it for quite a few years. But hey, and that might be our next episode, maybe together. We'll be chatting about
Hey,
that,
yeah, I'm down. I'm
Uh-huh.
down for that.
oh, that'd be great.
So that would be fun, yeah. Because I think William, I think you're the only other guy I know, I think, who's seen that show. It's like I'm always telling my friends about it, but
Yeah, and after growing up with X-Files and
Mhm.
just finishing the last season of Stranger Things, I'm like, why isn't more people watching Roswell? Because
Mhm.
this has so much connected to other shows, like Filmation did to everything else. It's like,
Mhm.
anyway.
Mhm. No, absolutely. And I heard it. I need to look it up a little bit because I remember I had read on deadline.com that they were talking about doing a like a reboot of Roswell. But this was before the pandemic. And so I don't know if it got canceled because of that. But I remember reading about that and I was like, oh, this will be interesting. See if it's any good. But I was thinking about actually reaching out to the producer to see what was still going on. So we might have a viral hair exclusive on our hands possibly.
All
Oh,
Cool.
right.
all right, guys. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat about Filmation. It was really fun. I enjoyed it, and I think our listeners are going to enjoy it as well.
Cool.
Not a problem. I enjoyed the time. I enjoyed the conversations and the memories and if just it for the people that are into it, dive back into it. If you're having a rough day or you just need to escape, dive into it. And for the people who are not as knowledgeable, and that's not a knock on you, because I'm the same way with anime, dive into it, learn something new. Like when my kids tell me about an anime that they think that I like, I'll watch it with them and I find myself liking it. So, explore.
Yeah,
And
yeah, uh, yeah. And this was awesome for me because to me, Jamoso is like family. So to get to do this with him and do this for Val here is just like a double. double score for me, man. This is great.
That's awesome, man. Well, thanks again, guys, and everybody else. Stay tuned for more episodes. Be sure to check out viralhair.com. Check out, we have a huge amount of articles on all different types of topics. One of our proud aspects of our site is our interviews. We have a huge amount of interviews from all different walks of life of content creators, authors, animators, directors, actors, everything. It's very entertaining, very fun to be able to read. So definitely check it out.